Namash that I find troubling. And the first of those things is that he has routinely, while he was in Congress, he consistently voted to spend more and more money on DC public schools. That's your tax money. If you pay taxes, income taxes in the United States, he voted to spend your money on the worst schools in the world. Now, if he was a Democrat or if he was a regular Republican as opposed to a libertarian Republican, I'd say no big deal. That's what you expect. But he claims to be a libertarian, and libertarians agree, whether you're a minarchist, anarchist, or classic liberal, they agree that there is no room for government schools. All libertarians oppose government schools. They don't spend more money on government schools. They defund and shut down government schools. So that's the first piece. The second piece, which is a little bit more interesting, is the way he's been going on and on about the January 6th riots. Now, I'm the first to admit, I don't support the January 6th riots. I think that violence is wrong. That's why the government is bad, because it is inherently violent, and violence is wrong. But I do understand the impulse of those riots. I do understand the impulse to dismantle and shut down the government. I think the execution is wrong. I think the methods are wrong. But the goal of shutting down the federal government is good. Now, what Justin Amash never said, or even hinted at, was something like this. I understand you're trying to do the right thing, shut down the government. You're doing it in the wrong way. Violence begets more violence. You can't criticize the government for being violent by then using violence. You're simply legitimizing the underlying principle of government. That's what's wrong with those riots. When you legitimize violence, you legitimize government. So what do we see here? We see here really somebody who's just in favor of the government status quo. He kept funding government schools, and he's vitriolically opposed to not just the execution of the riots, which I agree are 100% wrong, but even the motivations behind them. And that to me is a little bit different. So what we see here, and why does this matter? I mean, who cares what Justin Amash thinks? I mean, he's just one guy. What's the big deal? I'll tell you what the big deal is. As a libertarian leader, he's there setting a standard for what libertarianism is. And it does not look like funding government schools. If you're supporting government schools, you're not libertarian. You're anti-libertarian. Government schools are the most anti-libertarian thing in the world. So here's what I would want to see from Justin Amash. And Justin, if you're watching this, here's what I want to see from you. I want to see an open declaration that you oppose government schools, that if you're ever back in office, that you will do whatever you can to abolish any and all government schools, and that you want to see a complete separation of school and state. If you're willing to say that, then I'm 150,000% behind you. But if you believe that government schools are right, then while I respect you as a person, I do disagree with that view. Government schools are fundamentally anti-libertarian. The only correct thing to do with government schools is to end them.